Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Aloha, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. My name is Caroline Anderson. I am the Director of Planning at the Hawaii Tourism Authority. And I am so happy to share this morning with all of you and the Hawaii Food Hub Hui network, as well as the chefs here today. The purpose of this webinar is to connect our visitor industry with the Hawaii food hubs to learn more about them and to see how our chefs are utilizing the Hawaii food hubs. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Saleh Azizi, the director for the Hawaii Food Hub Hui.
Thank you, Caroline. Great to be here, everyone, with you. Okay, and so today, here we have our agenda for today. I will speak roughly 10 minutes about Hawaii's Food Hub and what the Food Hub Hui does. And then we'll pass it to Megan Fox with Malama Kauai, and she's going to talk about her experiences with running a food hub in Kauai. And then we'll go over to adaptations on the Big Island, and we'll hear from Maureen on best practices and tips for success. And then we'll have our buyers panel. And so we'll have some prepared questions for our chefs, and we'll have a chance for you all in the audience to ask questions. And so we'll leave probably close to 20 to 30 minutes at the end for questions. So I'm Saleh Azizi, and I'm the founder of the Hawaii Food Hub Hui, which is a project that is incubated by the Hawaii Good Food Alliance. And before starting the Hui, I was part of the team that launched and operated at Kahumana, the food hub in Waianae on Oahu. And in 2019, I completed my dissertation on community-led policies to promote food hub local farmers and to strengthen our local food systems. And the Hui concept emerged after spending years learning the operation at Kahumana, but also becoming friends with other food hubs around in Hawaii and sharing common concerns that needed collective advocacy. Our Hui is a practitioner-led initiative of 14 food hubs that currently support over 1,400 farmers in Hawaii and about 150 employees and more, partnering to strengthen Hawaii's food value chain. So we believe that the collective power of our Hui can be harnessed to solve systems levels problem that individual food hubs can't solve on their own. And in doing this work, I've come to think that the biggest problem with our food security today is not that we're importing 90% of the food we eat. That is a consequence of the problem. The real problem is really that we don't listen to our communities and believe in them and choose to invest in their ideas. When I began working with the food hubs, I spent a lot of time engaged in deep listening and learning from their operations and from the small farmers that they serve. And when I listened to the farmers, they said that they have an abundance of produce and they need food hubs to solve market access issues. They need access to markets. And food hubs would often say that they could serve more of the demand for local food that has gone unmet for decades if more resources were available for them to expand their processing and distribution services. And so we use the word food hub a lot. And so I'm sure for some folks, this is a new term. So if you're unfamiliar with food hubs aggregate produce from farmers by storage, processing, and distribution of locally grown foods. Hubs are community-led organizations that connect the dots systematically from production to consumption every step of the way. And quite often they have been described as the missing link in our local food system. And from my days working at Kahumana, I do remember my friend Bula calling me one day. He grows a beautiful butterhead lettuce at his aquaponics farm that's less than 5 acres at the Waianae Ag Park. And like many other family farmers, he doesn't have time to sell at the farmer's market, so he tried a nearby grocery store. And he said, when I went to the store to sell my lettuce, they just laughed at me. Small farmers like Bola are excluded from our current food system. They're an inconvenience, but ironically, they are the norm, and they represent over 90% of our 7,300 farmers in Hawaii. In my mind, they are the foundation for our sustainable agriculture. And on the retail side, without a food hub, a buyer would have to reach out to over 40 to 50 different producers every week and maintain those relationships. And because they don't really have time for that, they would pay food distributors and end up filling their shelves with imported foods. Instead of importing foods, food hubs distribute exclusively locally grown food to a full range of wholesale markets and direct markets. To increase the demand for local food, food hubs also develop minimally processed value-added products that allow for growth of local food manufacturers, such as baby food makers. Food hubs are so important because they scale the system and allow for more consumers and for more farmers to benefit from the local food economy. Efficient local food hubs connected to diverse markets are helping to solve market problems for farmers like Bola. And for every dollar that a consumer spends on a food hub, on average, 70 cents goes to the farmer, which completely changes the incentive system of being involved in the local food system. In the industrial system, studies show that farmers receive about 10 cents of every dollar that is spent on produce in the store. So as more food hubs become available in Hawaii, and as they expand their reach, beginning and experienced farmers are preferring to work with food hubs. And from the buyer's side, there's also many benefits of working with food hubs. Food hubs provide a steady supply of produce because they aggregate for multiple farmers. Food hubs also provide steady prices for both the farmers and the customers. Another benefit of working with food hubs is that you can order custom products that you need specially for your business, such as seasonal fruit purees. Food hubs are a local partner that you can have a conversation with so that they can serve uniquely what you're trying to do in your business. And last but not least, local food is the freshest, most nutritious, and best quality food for your customers. So this is my last slide, and then I'll pass it over to Megan. We often think that Hawaii is unique in our vulnerability and dependence on outside resources. But the truth is that localities around the world are facing similar challenges. And what really makes us unique here in Hawaii is how we have responded to the challenge with supporting our food hubs and our family farmers to build a stronger local food systems. Other places are learning from our efforts to transform our food system from one that is relying on external imported produce into one that improves food security, relies on local resources, and is inclusive of local family farmers. So because you get it, we are becoming a model for sustainable agriculture. So let's hear it from the food hubs themselves. It's my honor to present Megan Fox from Malama Kauai. Megan is the executive director of Malama Kauai, who is going to share with you about unique partnerships you can develop with food hubs, common challenges you may experience, and the benefits of working with food hubs. Malama Kauai is a nonprofit organization that has focused on increasing local food production and consumption for a resilient Kauai since 2006. They were the first food hub established on Kauai Island and the first food hub statewide, building their hub facility from the ground up. In addition to commercial sales, they have a robust food access program that offers retail customers delivery island-wide, including the ability to use SNAP and the Bucks, as well as kupuna and keiki feeding and farm to school programs. So I'll pass it over to you, Megan.
Thanks, Saleh. You can go to the next slide. Basically, I wanted to start my chat with you folks off today on talking about thinking outside the box. So a lot of people just think, I'm going to go to food hubs to get food on my plates, right? Which is great. We want to see local food on plates. We want you to purchase it for your menus. But I think there's a lot of opportunities in the tourism industry that are maybe less explored, that have a lot of potential. And things like fruit baskets, special gifts and swag bags, whether you have conference attendees or gifts for events and things, a lot of those things we see on the left are things that carry the Hawaiian brand, but are not made in Hawaii and are not sourced from Hawaii, right? So we're kind of participating in this appropriation of the food system in this way. And there's a way that we can do it more authentically. And I think if you work with food hubs, there's a lot of opportunity to even potentially come up with custom size products and things like that, so that your all of your food is really more authentically represented. So, one hotel does a really great job. They have a fruit stand where, their guests can come by and actually pick fresh fruit. We had some longan and bananas in there this week. Just a really great kind of concierge-y thing for your guests. You can also think if you have any shops, if you're in a resort or a hotel, what kinds of food are you carrying in there? If you are the type of place that has refrigerators and cooking facilities in your rooms or something like that, you can actually work with us to do retail side grocery delivery, have your hotel be a delivery or pickup point. We can co-market through your concierges to customers. We can, have little magnets on your fridge that says where they can buy local food for delivery. It's just a really great way to kind of encourage all of your customers individually to support local as well. Saleh, if you can go back a couple. Thanks. And then the other thing you can do, a lot of different tourism industry folks will make kind of an annual donation towards the end of the year. And so this is my call out to say, how can you leverage that donation to help the local food system? A lot of food hubs are nonprofits, and you can kind of leverage those donations to set up funds to more meet your needs. A lot of us will kind of do mini grants to farmers and things like that. You could say, hey, you know what, I really want 200 pounds of carrots a week and I'm not getting it right now. Here's a donation, earmark this for farmers that can help grow carrots, things like that. So lots of opportunities and partnerships there. Next. And then the common challenges that come up, we're not food distributors, right? So we're going to have different products. We're not going to have cases of things that look exactly the same. Weather might happen. We don't have tens of thousands of pounds sitting on a tractor or a dock somewhere. So you're going to see a lot of different products in different types of forms than you're used to. There's also different ordering methods. There's limited supply, right? So you might have to vie for that supply or be kind of first come, first serve. Some of us have pre-ordering or standing orders. A lot of us, you go online and you just, when the doors open, it's almost like Black Friday, all the buyers come in and just snatch up all the things. So really take some time to work with your food hub and communicate so that you understand what that ordering process looks like. You can help build something for consistency that works for both of you. We also have different payment structures. So like Saleh showed, most of our money, the money for your products goes to your farmers when you're working with food hubs, but we also pay our farmers between 7 to 14 days. And so that means, cash flow is important to us. So most of us actually will get paid via credit card the day somebody makes an order. The other alternative is, we prefer 15-day net 15 payments, which a lot of the industry do 30, 60 days. So, we're very different. We're not these big Costco type or, Cisco type organizations that have a huge cash flow and are multi-billion-dollar businesses. So, think about treating us like small businesses in that way as well. Farm names on a menu can be really challenging when you're working with food hubs. I know it's really sexy to put the farm names on the menus, and chefs love to do that. But the benefit of working with food hubs is that, if farmer A doesn't show up with your carrots, we go to farmer B and we get you carrots, or farmer C or D. And so the farm that supplies your products might be changing constantly, but we make sure that you're never short on that product, ideally. So that's something that can be a little bit challenging. Maureen will talk to that a little bit more later. Standing orders, providing a notice on menu changes is really important. You can come in and get standing orders set up, and then the farmers plant those crops in the ground. So we want to make sure that there's a lot of notice when you're going to do menu changes. If you do it seasonally or something like that, we have a heads up, just because we need to pivot and try to find other markets for that farmer's product. And then, local food is very high in demand. There is still a limited supply. I know we're all working to make more of it become available, make more diverse products available. There's lots of competition from other buyers. So I really if you're going to get into sourcing local food, really ask yourself, how can I be a better buyer? If people are nice and pay quickly and are great to work with and are flexible and communicative, you're going to be on the top of our list when we get cool new products in. We'll call you up and say, hey, you want this before someone else gets it, or can make more adjustments for it. So just a final few notes. I think some of the benefits of working with food hubs, obviously it's fresher, tastier products, right? They're usually picked the morning of delivery, at the height of their freshness. You're not going to get that on something that's shipped in from the mainland. Small businesses and nonprofits are who you're supporting when you make those purchases. And I kind of like to think of us as like a concierge of local food. And you can make a very local personal relationship with the folks that run your food hub and look at it as a high-end procuring service. Like we're here to try and connect you with as much farm product as we can. So the more you communicate with us, the more we can help you out with that. It does seem a lot of time and coordination effort from sourcing from multiple farms and vendors. And I know there's a staffing shortage everywhere. It's definitely hit the food service industry. So, I know you have less time than usual. So you might not be paying another staff person, but maybe you're paying a little bit more for someone else to procure your food for you and get it simply in, less deliveries. So food hubs are here to solve those problems in sourcing, so you don't have to. We all deal with farmers that say they're going to bring something and don't, and the food hubs are really a buffer for that, because we can go out and find it other places. So hopefully you get hit less often with those kinds of shortages. And just my final note, guests love authenticity. They love local food. UH did a survey that said 80% of visitors are willing to pay more for local food. So some people that are a little bit more price conscious, they're willing to pay for it. So let's find out. Let's give them a chance to. So I think next up we have Maureen. I just want to introduce Maureen Data from Adaptations. She and her husband Thane actually started Hawaii's first food hub. And we kind of nickname her the mother of food hubs in Hawaii. She's very much a mentor and supporter of all of us. She sources from over 175 producers. And does wholesale as well as retail through our Fresh Feast online market.
You go, Maureen.
Aloha, everyone. I'm Maureen, and I have Adaptations Food Hub in Kealakekua. Like Megan said, we've been working for a long time to build up our network of supply. And that's primarily because when we first started, the criticism was that local food was inconsistent. It wasn't always available. And so we worked really hard to have more than one source for each item. And we've also tried to give our markets a heads up about seasonality. Some fruits are wonderful, but they're only available for a couple of weeks. We just had Jabota Kava for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then it was out. There are a lot of variables that we work with climate change is huge. We have lychee now. Lychee normally doesn't show up until the end of June. So we're seeing it almost 2 months early. And I think that may be true for mango and white pineapple this year. Everything seems to be coming in early. So there's a lot of wild cards, and what the food hubs bring to you is kind of a shock absorber effect, where because we have multiple sources, we can be more agile in pulling from various different vendors. And Megan kind of touched on standing orders. So if you know that you always want to get this one product from us, then make a commitment, place a standing order. You know, we're not gonna hold you to it. If you get overloaded, we'll adjust it as needed. Hopefully we can get through whatever we planted for you at that higher level or lower level, and then there'll be a little bit of forgiveness for the first week or so as we transition to new numbers. But orders help us to be more committed to giving you priority on an item. And so fostering relationships is really important. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to have a conversation where you discuss, you know, hey, I would really like to be called. That's the best way to reach me. Don't call me before 2 because I won't be able to place my order yet. And don't call me after 4 because I'll be in the weeds already getting prep ready and doing pre-service. So there's a sweet spot for everyone. We want to know what time that is, which day it is, and how you like to be contacted. We can call you, text you, email you. We even fax some people still. It's still happening. Or maybe you don't want to be contacted at all. Maybe you're going to be the one to get that order into us in a timely fashion. Imagine that you just cleaned your kitchen, put everything away, and a guest comes in and places an order that you really want to fulfill, but you can't because they missed the deadline. Just try to think of it that way. So conversations are the best way to solve those problems and create a really healthy relationship, because you both know what to expect. And of course, there's pop-ups and there's all kinds of wild cards that happen with farming. So flexibility is important. But our primary objective when we set out with this food hub notion, we didn't even know it was a food hub at the time. It was just hooing up with other farmers so that not everyone had to have this overhead of having a van and having cold storage and having all this staff. So by taking care of that for farmers, it let them just come, bring their harvest, drop off, get back to be on the farm. Over time, we've seen patterns on when fruits are going to be in season, and we can give you an idea with our fruit calendar. We can send that out to you. There are other items that are year-round, and luckily we have farmers who are really committed to being the best that they can be. So we're seeing things like rambutan and longan have extended seasons because they can adjust the fertilizing and make the trees flower more consistently. So we're learning, and if you ever see something on our list, just ask for a sample of it. We're happy to do that. We can also send photos. For chefs, we would really encourage you to come and visit our Food Hub facility and also our farm. We have a 7.5 acre certified organic farm, and it's nearby a lot of other farms. So it's possible to do a couple of farm tours in one day. So we're happy to schedule that during shoulder season when things are a little bit slower. And if you can bring front of the house staff, then that helps them tell the story. If they can tell a story, that helps sell the dish. And on your menu, if instead of saying, you know, that item comes from a certain farm, instead you say a medley of root vegetables. That gives us a lot more flexibility to provide a medley of root vegetables instead of beets from one particular farm. And then, like Megan touched on, we pay our growers 15-day terms. So twice a month, they get paid within 15 days of their invoice date. And most of the resorts are on 30-day terms, but I have had chefs go back to us and ask their controllers to make an exception for a small local business. And it's actually come to pass that we now have 15-day terms with certain resorts, and that does make a difference, especially for new food hubs that are just starting out. We had a lot come up during COVID to meet the demand, and I'm really stoked to see that happen. I want to see a strong local food system, and so that would help them a lot with their cash flow. Our CSA model helps us with our cash flow because customers pay up front, and then as their orders are filled, then the balance is reduced by the amount of that order. But having that money up front gives us seed money, literally, and helps us make commitments to farmers for food as well. Next slide. So I guess I already hit this. Yeah, how do you like to be communicated with? What's the best way to get that order? And understand that it's a back and forth. There's a lot of conversing about things. Let's see, next, well, yeah, the weekly available list that we send out Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. We try to keep that a consistent window so that chefs know that if they are in their office at that time, they're going to see that list and they can place their order right away and get priority on limited items. So Tuesday and Thursday afternoons is when our list goes out, and we can take advance orders. If you know that you have a party coming up, if you have an event on the books already and you have a set menu, please tell us what you need. We just recently worked with one of the chefs on our panel today with a big group that's in-house this weekend, and they had placed their pre-order and they got the special items that they wanted, because we had 10 days notice to make sure to prioritize that order. We also go to special events. So if you have, a grazing event, we'll come and we'll set up a display of local produce, and we'll talk to the guests and tell them about, what's special about Hawaii and why they're having a unique culinary experience that night. And it's a fun, interactive way for us to hear feedback and understand the level of knowledge sometimes that chefs are facing with their guests. It's also a chance for us to promote our online market, CSA, to residents who are attending that event. And sometimes we'll be paired up with a celebrity chef who's visiting for an event. And that's stimulating for us and also educating for them. And I think it reflects well on the host that they have a close partnership with food hubs and with farmers. And it's a way to really celebrate how different Hawaii is from most food destinations. Hawaii regional cuisine was developed in the 1990s, and we grew up with that movement. And it's been a 30-year production, really. It's taken a long time to get Hawaii on the map as a food destination, but now people know they can come and enjoy exotics and have a really unique experience here. So that's the way to really come through with that promise, is to work closely with local food hubs. Do we have another slide for me? Is that the last slide? Oh, yeah. So here we go with the flexibility. Just trust the judgment of a food hub that if we handle an avocado, it's going to have a great seed to flesh ratio. It won't be stringy or watery. The peel won't be crumbly. And it'll be a nice avocado experience, but it might not be that charwell. It might be a malama or a kahalu. But if you just kind of trust us to have good judgment and provide you with quality fruit, that'll give us a lot better chance of supplying you than if you just want a Haas and you just want a certain size and a certain ripeness. We see all sizes come in, and I try to encourage our growers to feel comfortable in bringing mixed size cases because we don't want to restrict their market. We want to have them have a one-stop shop and be able to get back to their fields. But when you place the order, if it's really important that you have something that's ripe or half ripe, let us know at the time. That'll help. Whether we can get you uniform sized tomatoes, I can't guarantee like 4x5s or 5x5s. We can do our best, and we can actually, like, in the minutes say, oh, these tomatoes that we just received this morning are this size. Is that going to work for you? Otherwise, I have this size in this farmer. So communication is really key. Pick up the phone, send us an email. We really love talking to buyers, and that's the way that we can really deliver what they're needing. But like I said, it's a back and forth conversation, and we want to have realistic expectations, especially if you can have an area in your kitchen for ripening. So say you get firm ripe papaya, but they're still 3 days away, you have a place for that to be. It's an acknowledged spot where this is a process. Like if we delivered wholly ripe, ready to go papaya, they might be damaged or bruised. So let's acknowledge that there needs to be some space in the kitchen or in the storage area for fruits and veg that need to ripen more to allow that to happen. I'm sure that the chefs now are eager to tell us their perspective. So I will put it back to Sally. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maureen. And both you and Megan are my heroes for the work that you do every day. So thank you so much. And thanks for inviting chefs that you work with in your region to our buyers panel today. And so first we have Chef Khalifa Garnage, who's an executive sous chef at One Hotel in Kauai. Welcome. Good to have you here. We have Chef Peter Abarkar, executive chef at Mauna Kea Resort on Hawaii Island. Welcome and good to have you here. And then we also have Chef Dan Robayo, chef de cuisine at Kohana Hiki Beach House on Hawaii Island. And welcome and good to have you here. So we have some questions for you, and then we can open it up for Q&A for webinar participants, for our buyers panel, and also our food hub. So Chef Khalifa, would you like to start with your reflection on this question of tell us about what brought you here and why you think buying local is important?
I mean, bringing me here, I kind of just stumbled upon Malama. I had been out here for about a year prior to working with One Hotel, and I was going farm to farm looking. Like I one day drove around and just literally went farm to farm and was talking to people, trying to get them signed up and figure out how to get their product to us. I mean, you got a lot of old school farmers out here that, I mean, they don't have a way to deliver, and it was kind of a mess getting 40 different farmers. And once I started talking to Megan, I mean, it was like a one-stop shop, and I do the standing order thing. That's how I do it. So I just kind of figure out my numbers, and then right now it's kind of tough for me too, because obviously we just opened up, so my numbers are all over the place. And like they said, it's just communication is key, and giving them heads up. I can't just cancel out of nowhere and cut someone off, because that's gonna have a huge impact on a small farmer when all they're making is one thing. So I don't know. I mean, Malama's been great for me. I mean, I get probably 40 to 50 different items from them. And we do a little like a farm stand out in the lobby area where I can put local fruits, and front desk pays for it, so it doesn't hit food costs. So I can get a bunch of cool fruits in and just give those away for free. Yeah, you like that, Peter?
Wow.
And
My chef.
yeah. So we just charge that to front desk, and then we put this nice little stand up by the lobby area. So as guests come in, they can try like long guns or rambutans, bananas, just stuff you can kind of pick up and take with you. And
Nice.
it's a big hit. People love it. I was gonna get you guys a picture, but fruit is like not very good right now. So it's pretty much just bananas. So that's it for me.
Thank you for bringing that up. And that's beautiful. I know
Yeah.
a lot of hotels actually have a budget for flowers in the lobby. So I think I'm going to vote for your idea, fruits in the lobby.
Spend it. Spend that front office money.
All right, Chef Peter, I'll go to you next, and maybe you can give us your reflection on this question of what brought you here and why do you think buying local is so important?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Well, I don't know. I feel like I've been here for a while. I'm getting old. I'm going to be 53 this month, and I don't want to age date Maureen, but I've been working with Maureen since probably 2000, I think, huh, Maureen? And, you know, the obvious reasons, buying local. I'm a local boy, born and raised on the Big Island, public school graduate, public culinary college graduate. You know, I'm inherently involved and from the community I still work in. So, you know, I really feel that there needs to be a lot of things that the public needs to know, and as well as our guests. So I think for kids, I think, you know, we kind of lost. So I have two older kids now, but I still remember when I cooked, you know, I brought them a whole chicken for my daughter, and she was asking me what part is the nuggets from, right? So that kind of made me realize that, man, I mean, that's pretty sad that she is wondering where something from, you know, that fast food restaurant is, and not really connecting that, you know, we had roast chicken, fried chicken, other stuff. I broke down the chicken, made soup, made roasted chicken, made chicken papaya, did all kinds of stuff with it. So that kind of made me realize that we're losing track of where our food is from. And I think buying local reconnects us to that point. We need to know where the food is from. We need to know how it's grown, and I think that'll lead us more towards, you know, better food sustainability. You know, through pandemic, I think that, well, what I learned is that obviously, besides the amount of imports we have, that, you know, again, not many people knew how to grow their own food. So, you know, hats off to the farmers who have been doing it for all this time and making it available for us here at the hotel. Because, you know, I have a budget, and it's really unlimited in terms of, as long as I hit my numbers, I can bring whatever I want. What I mean by that is that, you know, I still recall when I first started working Marine, and I was working at a place in Kona, and I walked into one of our local grocery stores during mango season in summer, and then there was a $7 a pound mango next to an imported South American mango that was selling for $1.99. And I'm not even kidding, this is probably in 2002. So, you know, the fruit is obviously, I don't think there's any reality where a fruit from the island you're from, or from the store you're actually from, that has a minimal carbon impact should be that expensive. So I'm trying to see if I can figure out a way to have local food be more available and affordable to local families, because I think that's important. I think the support of the food hubs, maybe we can get to a place where the hubs and the farmers themselves can make a living off of a two-tier pricing structure, that maybe, again, since I am part of a hotel system that can buy, you know, certain things at certain prices, I can still make a profit margin here at the hotel. You know, a young mother going into, you know, KTA with her EBT, you know, she's not going to go buy a $7 a pound mango. She's going to buy, case of Saimin and maybe one can of Spam. So, or a bunch of really cheap food that's processed, not from here, not good for her kids. So I think that it's kind of coming to, you know, to a point where I think everything kind of has to dovetail. And I think that we, the chefs who can afford to buy these, you know, large amounts of locally grown stuff, and education, and educate our clients and our guests, because that's part of it too, right? They want to have food from Hawaii, and that slide that the Malama Food Hub put up, really, and Maggie put up, that really made it clear that guests are willing to pay that price. Unfortunately, our local people don't have that kind of discretionary income to afford locally grown food, and that's just hard for me to even spit out. So again, I want to try and see if there's a way for us, chefs, executive committees, and ownerships in the hotels and restaurants in Hawaii, to work with the farmers, do some promised and, you know, contracted buying, to, you know, pretty much buy everything they have, with an understanding that, you know, some of that has to be earmarked for local people. And what brought me here, you know, again, I think I've been here for 20 something years with Maureen at this point. So thanks for the invite, and keep it up, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I mean, you brought up so many important points. It's nice to hear, you know, your concerns and care and love for our local people and food access. You know, there is a program that many of our food hubs work with called the Bucks program, where when they do have access when people have access to the SNAP, they get 50% off. And so it's really nice to hear that that you care so much about that. And again, I think chefs that were part of starting Hawaii Regional Casino also had some of that concern going into
Absolutely.
it. Is this going to be, affordable to our local communities? And so, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And in fact, many food hubs, I've heard them say that, with our hotels and visitor industry paying a higher premium, it affords us to offer a lower price for our communities. So I've heard some of that in the past too, but thank you so much for sharing that. And I'll go over to Chef Dan and hear your reflection on this question. And thanks for being here. And if you have any comments as well to the other chefs, you're more than welcome to start a conversation here.
Aloha, thank you for having me. I think a lot of what Chef Peter just said is he hit the nail on the head with a lot of my same thoughts on it as well. Continuing education is one of the biggest reasons why I think buying local is important. It's that next generation. It's instilling, that love and that knowledge of where your food came from and why it's on your plate. I think one of the downfalls of this battle to get as much local food on tables is simply convenience. It's ease of access. It's, you get these families where, everybody's busy. Driving through McDonald's drive-through is quicker and easier. And so, to champion Maureen a little bit with what she's been doing with these Feast CSA boxes and ease of access and trying to be able to utilize local drop-off points and to get that food onto those tables. I think that fight is something that is extremely important and something that I've been very blessed to work with Maureen on now for 7 years or so. I also work with the Hawaii Ulu Co-op, one of our other food hubs here on Big Island, and trying to do these boxes where people can build a meal and make it accessible to everyone. I think better food is important, and local foods bring local ingredients bring better food, local agriculture. A lot of it's just my steadfast belief in that. And while I am not from this island, I've been blessed to marry a local girl, and they're 5 generations deep in the Honoka'a side. And my mother-in-law tells me stories about how instead of importing 90% of the food like we do nowadays, they were growing 90% of it. Like they could grow anything, in the 1940s, 1950s. And I think a lot of that is a lost art now, that because of the ease of access, because of convenience. And I don't think it's as big of a challenge to get back to it. I think it's going to take a village, as a lot of chefs say, it takes a village. But being able to tell the story, I'm so passionate about it. We have 11 microclimates on this island. It's not hard to support local. It's just hard to get that knowledge out there. And so conversations like this, this is extremely beneficial. This needs to happen more often. This needs to become, a talking point amongst everyone in our community, and I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm happy to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity. I'm looking forward to fielding some questions about all this.
Thank you, Chef Dan. Very inspirational to hear your passion for the food system and your work also as the Ulu ambassador on the Big Island, and your work with adaptations as well. So at this point, I'm not going to call individuals out. I'll just see how you feel about this question and see who's ready to speak up. So the question is, what have you learned and how have you adapted to working with Food Hub? So anyone feel free to start, but one person at a time. Thank you.
You guys want to give me the floor, chefs?
Go for it.
Sure, go ahead, you can start.
Yeah, so back to education. So a lot of people don't understand the difference between buying local and what a local imperfect piece of fruit or vegetable looks like. We as chefs, we value consistency, seasonality, but not everyone knows that. I think to Maureen's point about if you trust the local food hub, locally grown, half-ripe avocado, and let them know that, let our guests know and our servers know that this is what we're bringing in. We're not bringing in, California or Mexican avocados. Nothing against those markets, but again, if we're striving towards food sustainability, and kind of concentrating on not importing as much, those are the things that a lot of people don't understand. So in our bars and restaurants here at the hotel, at 2 hotels, by the way, we started bringing in. We have been for a while, but we've our food and beverage director and our executive team are all very supportive of this. So we started bringing in local citrus pretty much in every outlet. So if you come to the west end of the Mauna Kea Beach Hotel, you will not get a California small Mexican grown dried lime. You get Rangpur, you get Tahitian, peak of ripeness, flavor, nutritional value. It's not as pretty as your traditional perfectly round lime, but it's, once again, it just checks off so many more boxes besides us, aesthetics. So again, I've known this for a while, but I keep getting reminded, and I'm reminded that it takes education, that we have to educate our guests, our servers, because sometimes they look at the lemon or the lime and they have, chef, why are we using these? I'm like, what do you mean? What citrus do you use at your house? You go buy lime? So no, my neighbor has lime. So what does it look like? Well, it looks like that. Well, that's why we use it. It's from here. It's grown here. It's nutritionally sound and the best ripeness that you could find. So it's actually a better product, and it checks all the boxes of sustainability, low carbon footprint, benefits the economy, and so on and so forth. So like Chef Dan mentioned, education is huge, and I work at many schools. I just did a luncheon. I did 3 school visits in 1 week in the middle of crushing business, but I told myself it had to get done. So we had Waimea Middle School come down, gave them a tour of the hotel, gave them a tour of our garden at the Meridia restaurant, which is amazing. So they have the mala'ai up in the Waimea Middle School. They brought veggies. So we kind of collaborated on a really simple menu. We did some salad from their garden, some ingredients went on the entree. And one of the kids actually brought in some fish that he caught. And, I don't want to break any Department of Health standards here and expose us, but, he brought an uhu, he brought a little veke, and he brought a little mullet. And we ended up cleaning the fish, cutting it up, did a little frito misto, a little fried mixture of veggies and seafood. And we added a course. And that reminded me, that this is what it's all about, trying to connect the food to the people, to the experience, and to the value. So, those kids, after that, experience, the teacher got back to me, said, hey, chef, you want to do another one? Do you mind coming and doing a Hawaiian food demo? You mind helping us with their yearly fundraising luau? So, again, getting into the schools, educating them. And, there's certain schools that do a really, really good job. We need to get all Hawaii schools to understand and to grow a garden, because it's important. We, kind of anecdotally and literally have to start planting seeds to have that, bloom and bear fruit that, maybe we may not even see. Well, maybe you guys are younger than me in my lifetime, but, I'm hoping that I leave the industry and the education of food and food security as a legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. To continue what he's saying about that education in schools, I've done some ulu development recipes with Kamehameha schools, and there are certain schools that are really pushing on partnering up with local food hubs. My children are at WEA. I've done partnerships with Innovations, but then I also see my youngest daughter, public school, downtown Kona, I see her lunch menu, and there's nothing in there to instill a love of local in her. So she's having to get it at home from me. So I think, working with the food hubs, I think it goes back, it takes a village. It's not just, individual chefs or restaurants. It's, it's schools, it's everybody. And having that ability to adapt to that change is vital. That's why, as the chef, one of the big things I've learned is on that adaptation side is, changing menus, ambiguous menus, rains, pigs, it's not always going to come in the same time. It's why local greens on a menu versus arugula, because I don't know when, down south in Honolulu, if heavy rains kills all the arugula, pigs can destroy an orchard. All of a sudden there's no row lettuce, and so everybody has to restart, and we're 3 weeks out at that point. So adaptability, I think is key, and being willing to to work around, Mother Nature. I think Mother Nature, I know that's another question that we're going to get to, but the challenges that us as chefs working with the food hubs is it's not going to come in the same every time. Mother Nature, we are just her middlemen. It's you never know what's going to happen from day to day, especially on an island, But a lot of good points that Chef Peter just made with how to adapt with these food hubs. I've been doing it in multiple areas on multiple continents for 27 years now, but Hawaii in general has a better resource, better connection to our own Aina, to the land, than anywhere else I've ever been. So I really think championing it here is going to put Hawaii on the map, as Maureen was saying, as we're growing.
100%. And I mean, for me, I think the educational part about it is pretty much everything, because this island has, I mean, if everything just stayed here, I feel like the whole food security thing, it's just trying to figure out how to move forward. And I think education is the only way we're going to do that, and getting to the next generation so that they can start growing their own food, learning that, like you said, if an orange is ugly, it's still okay. There's no point in bringing oranges in from the other side of the country just to have a nice peel. So
yeah,
I don't know, I think like you said, education is everything, and just kind of how do we do that and move forward doing that. I mean, it's like just talking to our kids and youth and teaching them how to cook, and simple's better. I think that, I mean, I come home from work, I'm not trying to make some elaborate meal. I just like my local stuff. I throw it in a pan and cook it up and saute some vegetables with local chicken or fish, and that's the best meal you get, in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, just education.
Thank you. That is so much wisdom coming from our chefs. Thank you so much. So are there any unexpected benefits of working with food hubs and sourcing local food that you have noticed? We understand that there are the more upfront benefits, like serving a very unique product to your customers, and the fresh and the nutritional. Are there other aspects of it that you have noticed? And I'll just open it up.
My favorite I've learned is, Maureen said, chef walk the fields, and to know these farmers that I've built with these local, getting to see them in action in their own gardens, in their own orchards, has been one of the most beautiful things to me. It's, these farmers have faces, these farmers have families, they have needs, they have, they struggle. I mean, it's the food hubs with giving them 70 cents out of every dollar as opposed to 10 cents. It's massive for them, for their families, for their own personal growth, but everybody thinks that chefs have the hardest work, and we're literally just putting the food on the plate. They're the ones breaking their backs. We love what we do. I can't say that I would love going out and bending over all day and pulling taro root, in 90-degree humid weather. I can't say that would be my dream job. So just seeing what they do, getting to know them on a personal level has been one of the most beautiful and unexpected benefits to me. And it helps me tell the story by getting to know them. I remember one of the first times I went to Maureen's farm, I stood in that cinnamon orchard and I was overwhelmed. And you get these, the consumers who don't realize where cinnamon actually comes from, and they think it's a berry on a tree. They think it's a seed, who knows what they think. But, being able to educate them about, an orchard, because we did a cinnamon dinner within weeks after I stood in her orchard and talked to Tane and Maureen and learned everything I possibly could about true Ceylon cinnamon versus Saigon Chinese imported. I learned all about the subtleties. And so I think seeing those farms, getting to know the farmers has absolutely been my favorite benefit of it.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you, Chef Dan. Anyone else, any of the Chef Peter or Chef Khalifa want to take a stab at this?
Yeah, I will. So I have a few international chefs, and I mean, as far away as Kazakhstan and as close as Mexico, they work with us. And, I really like that when these chefs not from here see these, unusual or exotic ingredients, it kind of makes them think about how to use it. It really brings out their creativity. It's amazing that, you know, I love seeing the discovery of watching them taste something, trying to make, you know, a Suriname cherry work in something. Chef Rena that works with us, she's from Kazakh, she's Kazakh. You know, watch the wheel spin in her head and try and have her figure out what she can with this, you know, beautiful, sour, sometimes sweet, you know, food she's never had in her life. So I really love that it brings out the creativity of the chefs that are not from here. You know, Chef Dan mentioned, you know, walking in the fields. I have friends and family that have taro patches down in Whitefield Valley, and we took a little group of my little tour of my friend's place and went to the beach. And, you know, we went to the Lucky, we picked kalo, we picked watercress that's just growing wild. And just, you know, getting your feet in the mud and connecting with the earth. And it's also kind of like it's fun for me to watch these people who have not grown up doing these things, just really appreciate it, and they can't even describe it after, you know. So it's just a rediscovery, or for me, a rediscovery of what sometimes I take for granted, and just watching the wheels spin for the chefs thinking about how to use it, and the amazement and the amazing by going to these farms. So I really, that was really expected. Hi, chef. One of my chefs just walked in.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And that is definitely an unexpected benefit that I'm hearing you talk about. And it's actually one of our questions that will come later about the challenges in the workforce. But it's neat to hear that that working with food hubs, getting to know farmers can be a form of introduction for your workforce to the local. We'll go to our last question. So we have some time for questions and answers, and we'll check in with Chef Khalifa here. If you have any advice and tips that you like to give to someone considering working with local food hubs.
Yeah, I mean, just reach out. I mean, like out here, we have like Asaki's Produce, who's like you know, they got tons of mainland stuff, and I see their trucks everywhere here, and you know, it's easy to just pick up the phone and call one of those vendors that will just drop off whatever you need. And I think if you just put a little bit more legwork in, it's really not hard to just like pick up the phone, call Malama Produce, ask them what they have, what she can get me on standing orders so that I can just have it show up. It's easy. Even if it's just start small, so you can order less than what you need, and then you can always adjust and go more and more as you need. I feel like that's the best way to do it, and just take the leap. I mean, I see some small restaurants going to Costco, having to get their stuff there because it's ease, it's cost. It's really the price is really not that different, and it's going straight to the farm. You're not paying the middleman as much. I don't know. For me, like the whole unexpected use of this, like for me, it's been a great experience. I've learned so much just working with a food hub, and if I ever do leave this island, I'll work with these type of things for the rest of my career. And yeah, it's just every step of the way has been great. Megan has done, I can't even tell you how easy she's made my life. So yeah, shout out to her.
On his note, I think starting small is probably the advice I would go with as well. You know, to a general consumer, you know, start with replacing your lettuces from your local farms. You know, nobody's going to all of a sudden go 100% local at their homes. They're just not. You know, buy local eggs, buy local lettuce, start small if you like that. You know, start trying new things that you're not going to find in the grocery stores. You know, buy some Chinese long beans that Maureen has got in, or, you know, there's all kinds of fun things. You know, it's a small investment, you know, $3.50 a pound, buy some long beans. They're super fun, you know. Share the farms. That's other advice, because they need help growing. Follow them on social media. Tell your friends about them. Help those farmers build those relationships. Social media is king. And most of these farmers have social media in one sense or another. Whether it's Facebook, Instagram. I don't really see many on Twitter, but I also don't use Twitter. But share your love. Try something new and tell your neighbor about it. Be like, hey, this zucchini was noticeably different than what I bought at Safeway last week. And it was only $1 a pound more or 75 cents a pound more. I think, sharing that love, sharing that knowledge and, starting small, go to the farmers markets, take part in, Brian Harada's supper club once, see what he's doing, all kinds of ways to sample and taste and continue to learn. But, as Chef Khalifa said, start small, replace something.
Yeah, agreed. With both chefs. I mean, a family event too, whether it's a farmer's market or a food hub, who knows, maybe the little bit of extra you pay on the food, you might save some money in regards to medicine or gas, or, you start eating better, you might start may not need some of the medicines that a lot of us, have been given and if, now in our minds anyway, feel like we can't live without. But yeah, starting small. My next door neighbor has a bunch of chickens. She always gives me eggs. Pumpkins and my Portuguese cabbage. We're going crazy. I have 3 white pineapple that's growing in my tiny little garden, and I plan to share that with her. So sharing it, even farming advice. If you even have your own little garden, I think kind of getting everybody educated, and I think talking about growing your own stuff is part of it. So you may be inspired to become a little home gardener. Like during pandemic, I was lucky enough to work, but I actually took about almost between 3 and I think like a month off here and there. And during that time was great. My garden got shaped up and I started talking to my pineapples, and pineapples take about 2 years to start fruiting. My mom always told me, hey, talk to your plants, they'll react and they'll hear you. And I was like, whatever, mom. And then I remember talking to 2 of my pineapple plants in a week, they shot out fruit. So, little discoveries like that, it's kind of cool. But again, start small, try and get inspired. If you have young kids, take your kids out to the market, explain to them, chefs, I feel like we know more than, a lot of people, but then the farmers know the best, right? When it's in season, how it can grow. So if you go to these food hubs or farmers markets, talk to the farmers, get their manao, get their information and, tap their knowledge.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for our panel. So we'll dive into some of the questions we've been getting. And Megan and Maureen, you can come back on as well, because I'm hoping that all of us can have conversations around some of the questions. And actually, Megan, did you have a prepared question, or should we touch on that question first that was given about labor shortages and what's happening with that right now?
Sure, go for it.
Okay.
So the first question was, what is the reason for the staffing shortages in this market?
And are you experiencing it? Chefs, but also food hubs. And if you are experiencing staffing shortages, what have you found that is helping with that, or have you not found? So I'll open it up.
Yeah, this is the question of the century. I honestly don't know. I don't think there is a good answer to it, to be honest. You just try to make your employees' days better. That's how I work. I think you keep the guys that you do have happy, and hopefully they'll spread the word to a smaller community, and they get their family members and their friends over, and then they come, and I think it's a never ending process, right? And retention is obviously number one. So you can't get people as it is. You gotta keep the little amount that you do have happy. And again, just start right there. I think that's just the start, and that's all you can really do.
I actually
put in the work.
Yeah, I actually just did an interview panel on hiring and staff retention with Poach.com a couple weeks ago on how I hire and how I manage to keep staff. I've had basically the same staff for 6 years now at 2 different places. I'm in the private club sector now, but I also own my own food systems company called Pioneer Pantry, and I've had the same staff basically nonstop. I think COVID was basically a eye-opening, trying to figure out how to say this as politely and bluntly as possible. Restaurant work was always blue collar work. It was kind of an abusive culture in a lot of places, and it's something I never really bought into. It was low pay, low income. I'm sure these other chefs here will agree with. We're paying more now than we probably have in decade than ever. It's the general hourly labor has realized that it's not a badge of honor to work 70 hours a week anymore for barely over minimum wage. It's for too long that was something that everybody wore proudly. You know, I don't work people more than 35 hours a week, and I pay them very, very, very livable wages, benefits for their families, etc. And I think that goes back to being able to keep a staff, because I know it is slim pickings out there. Like, we could hire 5 chefs and 2 of them are going to actually be worth their salt. It's a tough competitive industry now. So I think staff retention, take care of them, Zohana, and paying them that livable wage and actually backing it up, and not just saying it as so many places do. It's definitely a problem. It's a problem in Kona. I won't go and name places, but there's places that have 100% turnover from one fiscal year to the next. It's, to me, that's insane that you're not taking care of your staffs. And so, yeah, that's, I won't go
It
too
affects the
deeply.
guest at the end of the day, just affects the guest. So, yeah.
Me, super loaded question. All right, go ahead, Megan.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna move to the next question.
Let's go. Go ahead.
Yeah, Saleh, this is probably more for you, but there's a question, what's considered minimal processing, and how many of the food hubs represented do minimal processing?
Great question. So minimal processing was, I think, something that came about to really increase the value for farmers. So it's a value added for farmers and food hubs, but at the same time, not trying to get all the way to the very processed, ultra processed foods that you find in the supermarket. So minimally processed has just not been processed all that much. And for example, there's the Ulu Cooperative that provide the cooked and frozen breadfruit and taro and squash. Those are minimally processed products. There are other food hubs that have created custom products for chefs that are minimally processed, whether it's, diced and half cooked carrots, things like that. This is actually a good question, Megan, right in relationship to some of the labor shortages the chefs are talking about, because as you have a shortage in the kitchen and you don't have the people you need to be, cooking and cutting everything from scratch, you can utilize the help of a food hub. You can custom make a product to say, this is what I need every week. Not the whole carrot, but the sticks. And, if they have been cooked for a few minutes, that would be helpful. So I hope that answers the question.
I think that's great. So back to the chefs, we have a question currently. What is the percentage of local versus imported food that you're using?
Me personally, as Koeniki, we have 2 different restaurants here. We're probably about 65% local right now. There are some obviously commodity products and price structure, we dictates a lot of things, food costs, etc. And then in my personal business, Pioneer Pantry, I'm sure Maureen can vouch for this. I'm about 95% local, beef, cheese, vegetables. I pride that with my personal business, and then my actual real job, probably about 60%, give or take. In the food hub, without them, I'd probably be going to 40 different farms, as Khalifa said at the beginning. Not exactly a very sustainable model for us with our long days already, but I'll open it up to them.
I'm actually out of office today, and I came in for the meeting and stuff, and I sat down to breakfast at Ikena at our hotel, and I had an avocado toast, and avocado's local, arugula's local, tomatoes local, on locally sourced bread. So, you know, on a plate, sometimes you can get close to 90, but, you know, throughout the entire resort, probably close to Chef Dan, probably 60 something. And if you categorize, you know, I saw there's another question from a viewer that wanted to, you know, kind of qualify or clarify that, you know, staples, you know, the rices and the flours and stuff, you know, oils, some of that is 99% not from here. But if you start, you know, categorizing, you know, meat, fish, produce, the numbers go up. I engage with a lot of ranchers. We buy an animal a month from a rancher in Honoka'a. We bring in all of our burger at all of our outlets, our Parker Ranch beef. So, you know, stuff like that we can kind of hang our hat on, but, you know, there's obviously more room to grow and room for improvement. And, you know, we need to educate the chefs too, though. So some chefs come to Hawaii or never been here or been here before and want to try and bring in some stuff from other places, stinging nettles, blackberries. You know, I mean, I educate my chefs. So what can you use instead of stinging nettles? I know in California or Washington where you were, you forage them. That's super cool. But in Hawaii, we have pipinola. Pipinola shoots, kind of blanch, taste, texture, flavor, close to stinging nettles. Blackberries. There's a guy in Volcano doing blackberries. Let's get them. You might not be able to get them, you know, from Driscoll or any of these other places. That's kind of extra large. Always like that. But you know, we can preserve the season. We can do a preserve, a jam, a jelly, a gastrique. Somehow extend the season, but using something that you want to use. So you know, chefs, we got to be flexible. We got to, you know, be sometimes like that said, as Maureen said, you know, adding root veggies or greens, that'll kind of open up the category, and we can be more flexible. And again, education is key. The staff has to know what they're selling, and it can't be contrived. You know, I read an article or an ad about some restaurant in Hawaii doing 90% local. I'm like, where is that restaurant? Let me see it. I mean, I'm so freaking local, and we can't get there. And again, you know, you can identify a plate that might be close to 90. But I mean, nobody's doing that kind of numbers, and that's a facade for sure.
That was actually on Kauai, and it was accurate, surprisingly.
What I read wasn't from Kauai, and I don't even recall. So
it didn't last, but it actually happened. Pa'akai, they went out and grabbed their own pepper berries to grind their own pepper, use Magna oil. It was nuts. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, we're looking at certain areas, dairy, milk, you know, the slaughterhouse, our ability to have slaughter done on our island, I'm not sure how it is on the other, has been hit or miss. I know that it's starting to be worked on a little bit more. They're doing some fundraising for here on Big Island to be able to bring, you know, pork to people without having to, you know, go buy a whole pig, because nobody's really going to do that. There's one at butcher shop has their butcher boxes, which I encourage everybody to do. You know, $200 and you get enough meat to feed your family for a month. You know, there are options for everyone, but, you know, to go back what Chef Peter said, you know, stop feeding your kids potatoes, feed them ulu. You know, I helped develop that ready to eat 12-ounce retail packs. You know, it's minimally processed, as Soleil was saying. You know, it's already steamed, it's already been cleaned. You literally cut it up and throw it in a saute pan at home. That's it.
Yeah,
it's ready to go.
It's nice. It's recipe ready.
Yeah.
And, you know, during COVID, our food hub had to pivot to supplying more to our local residents. You know, people didn't want to go in the grocery store. They were doing curbside pickup if they needed to, but we stretched to get more products so people could have a one-stop shop with our CSA, for instance. So we were buying macadamia nut oil and sunflower oil from Made in Hawaii. They have the farm over on Maui, and they're producing a local oil. We got more sources for eggs. We added on another goat cheese provider. You know, we were trying to be more full service. And the next step is to get those same products packaged at a commercial pack and getting that to the restaurants and chefs. Like, wouldn't it be great if you started to use the local commercial scale sized MacNut oil or sunflower oil and made it an affordable option? So we're looking at value added products we've been supplying to local families and then trying to encourage those partnerships between wholesale kitchens and having them packaged for wholesale kitchens. So that's our next step.
Thank you, Maureen. And just want to reiterate what you said about the oils. You know, we had Pacific Biodiesel had a benefit concert for our food hubs. It was 2 weeks ago now. And during that time, they also presented the Made in Hawaii oils. They showed how they were going to scale the oils and provide more bulk, and also talked about how prices were going to come down. So I know Joy is in the audience today as well. So that's great that you brought that up. And I'll throw it back to you, Megan, and see if there are any other questions that we want to discuss.
Yeah, definitely. I think there was a really good one that came in for the hubs. In terms of trying to keep local food more affordable, did things like contracts, commitments to buy set crops and quantities from local farms help them to keep their costs down, like the concept of a CSA, but for wholesale buyers? So I obviously have an opinion on this. Maureen, do you want to kick us off though?
I think the term is forward contracting, right? It's new to me. I have to say that we're at a level of production where it's all sold. So it's hard to lower the price to a farmer when the demand is so strong. A standing order gives us predictability for sure, and it helps us give you priority. But as far as like a lower price, it's really tough to say to the farmer, hey, you know, we've got a commitment, so your crop's not valuable now. Whereas I could sell it all day long without that standing order. So it's hard. What I can say is standing orders and forward contracting, it gets you priority. If you make a commitment, if you say, okay, here's some money, you know, our resort is going to throw down $100, you know, $200, whatever it is, for seed money for carrots. And that means when that carrot crop comes, I get first dibs. I'm all about that. I'll do that all day long. But as far as like dropping the price, I don't think that's really fair to ask of farmers.
I have to agree, Maureen. I think, you know, our food's not actually not affordable or not expensive. I think when you look at the stuff in the grocery store, it's hugely subsidized, right? And so that subsidization needs to come from somewhere if you're going to lower the price of something. So we actually are happy to have farms kind of they have to stay afloat, and the costs of fertilizer and importing all these supplies that they need, and they're not getting rich. Their margins are very, very thin. Food Hub margins, very, very thin. In fact, most of us are subsidized nonprofits to even get the food to people. So I don't think that food affordability might not be one of our greatest goals. I know we participate in SNAP and EBT and double up food bucks to give people 50% discounts on local produce. Like Peter mentioned before, you know, you have this different price levels. We charge our consumers a different price than we charge our chefs, and we charge off-island people a different price than we charge food banks. And so there's a lot of tiered pricing levels that we come up with. And we have programs. We also, a lot of us give out food, you know, so we'll have keiki boxes, kapuna programs, like different things that actually get free emergency food out to the community in a subsidized way through various grants and things. But in terms of the farmers, a lot of what we've been doing on Kauai is actually raising money to then go re-grant to farmers. So we just had, you know, we gave out $50,000 in January in sponsorship by the county of Kauai, and had farmers choose. We worked with farmers to choose crops that were really in demand that we needed more of, and we gave them grants to help support like de-risking their farm expansion and make those crops. We're gonna have another one coming up that's more about fruit production and trees, and so there's been a huge gap in the fruit market here because of the parakeets are just going nuts. And so, you know, we're gonna bring Ken Love from the Tropical Fruit Growers Association, educate people, give them money to expand their orchards, get bird netting, whatever the kinds of things they need. So I think there's a lot of support we can do for farmers and consumers. And I just don't know that lowering the price of food is the best option right now for other ways.
Thank you, Megan. And Yeah, the only thing I, add to this point is just what has happened in the last year with food prices. So, with inflation and food prices rising, what we are seeing, and, even just going back to the slide where I show the value chains, we are seeing the imported foods having gone up quite a lot in pricing in the last year, some items being almost double the price. When you have a short supply chain, like a food hub in the local food system, those prices just don't rise as quickly as they do when you have 10 steps from where the food is grown to where it is imported. So what I'm hearing from quite a lot of folks that we're working with now, and especially institutions, is that the prices that the local food hubs are offering compare and sometimes are better than is being offered from the outside food system.
Well, and for our food hub, I found that the biggest effect of price increases is that it's gone so high. So we actually have put a surcharge on as a separate item on the invoice, because we don't want to falsely, inflate the cost of local food. We want to show, hey, local food prices are here, and we're having to put this fuel surcharge on because that's where the increase, is coming. That's what's hitting us the hardest.
That's great.
Maybe, Megan, one last question before we pass it over to Caroline to close us off.
Sure. Back to the chefs. What are different approaches you guys use to adjust your menus based on the availability of different products and also including meats?
I think we kind of answered that a little bit. I mean, just the flexibility, right? Meats, again, we're lucky enough to kind of partner Parker Ranch, and that was a kind of a perfect partnership for us. Mauna Kea Beach Hotel has a long-standing relationship with the original ownership, the long-term cowboy Ohanas. We have a structure on property called Parker Cottage, so that was a no-brainer. So we got that, and again, I try and bring in meats as specials. I've been doing some some education opportunities for our chefs. We just participated in a full animal breakdown of lamb up at the butcher shop a couple weeks ago. There's a fish one coming up. So, getting the chefs the skills that they need to be comfortable with working with whole animals. During pandemic, I did a fish cutting thing. I did a lamb breakdown thing. But showing, giving the team the confidence to utilize these whole animals will help, open up those opportunities to bring in more local stuff. And unfortunately, back to consistency in supply, like nobody really can put local lamb as lamb chops on the menu, except maybe Merriman's, because Chef Peter has such cachet and a long-standing relationships already. But he's the only one can probably put lamb chops from Kahua or lamb on the menu. But we other chefs, we can bring in whole animals and we can spread it throughout the property. We've done local lamb, local oxtail, local beef in our cafeteria menus. So that's another opportunity that we haven't really talked about. Employee feeding is very important, and we put local fruits and veggies in our cafeteria and employee feeding menus. Local fruits at our baskets and cafeteria. Just go ahead and grab a locally raised banana from Adaptations or Kiao, citrus, and again, just using everything at my fingertips in order to utilize local products as much as possible. Even though we're not selling it to guests per se, I am trying to get it into our the bellies of our employees and making them aware of what we're serving as well.
This menu updating too. I change menus every 2 weeks right now based on availability of products, and sometimes I have to, I drive our F&B directors crazy because I have to reprint menus every day, or every other day. But a lot of it's just, you got to work with the season and the availability of things. But going back to what Chef Peter said, being able to bring in whole animals to utilize, here's belly for this is sausage, this is roasted, this is employee cafeteria, that gives us a little more flexibility, but I still have to be flexible with menus, and I get bored easily, so I like changing menus as often as I can anyway.
Same. And I think the communication with the vendors is big time. Like I obviously know I can get Maui Nui venison. I can put that on my menu. Like I can leave that on my menu and label it as that. Beef, I struggle with beef, so I kind of just leave that one blank. And chicken, I got a really good chicken farmer. So I mean, for me, it's just kind of figuring out who I know can supply a large hotel with this amount of stuff, and then I can kind of, I don't know, be more specific, I guess.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, chefs, for joining us. Thank you, Food Hubs, for the webinar today. And we'll follow up. We'll send you the recording, and we'll send you a Food Hub directory. Here you have some of the contact informations for me, and I also function as a Food Hub liaison. So if you want to connect with a Food Hub near you, I saw some of the questions in the chat were about, are there anyone's around me? And so you can also contact me for that, and I will connect you to them, but we'll also send out our directory. And so having said that, I'll just pass it over to Caroline. But again, thank you so much, Maureen, Megan, and for our 3 chefs for participating today. Caroline.
Thanks. Just wanted to mahalo all of you again. Megan, Maureen, for this partnership and bringing this webinar together. And thank you to Chef Peter, Chef Dan, Chef Khalifa for all your manao and inspiration to all of us as attendees. And I just wanted to recognize our local farmers who aren't here with us today, but they're the ones who are, as Chef Dan had mentioned, they're the ones doing the hard work, feeding our residents and our visitors. So on behalf of the Hawaii Tourism Authority, just wanted to thank all of you again for attending this webinar. I hope you found it useful and inspirational. I hope it has inspired you to make those connections. There's so much opportunities to partner with the food hubs and help the local food systems here in Hawaii. So let's continue to support our local farmers, and support our food hubs and find ways to work together. So mahalo and have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
See you guys.